Hey, Chris Sims, an NFL analyst for NBC Sports. He's the co-host of Pro Football Talk Live. That's with our friend Mike Florio. And he is the host of the Chris Sims Unbuttoned podcast. You get the drift. He's at CSimsQB on Twitter, and he joins us now. Chris, thanks for coming on.
Of course, no problem. I mean, I feel bad for you guys. You got to deal with Mike Florio. It sounds like on a once-a-week basis. That's tough. So I figured, I'd show you that, the other side of his working partner is not so bad and not such a jerk like he is. So I figured I'd owe that to you.
Chris, I used to interview from time to time on NBC Sports Chicago. And yes, I appreciate the level-headedness. But yesterday was the perfect day to work with Mike because we went down a billion different rabbit holes after John Harbaugh got fired.
Right. I'm sure. And he's the master of going, that's the one thing about Florio. Right, he's not into always breaking news. He knows a lot of people behind the scenes in the NFL. Right, he's very good at connecting dots. What I always call his pasta and meatballs, his stomach, his guts, his intuition are top notch that way. And this is the time of the year usually where he thrives, calling his shots about things he's heard, things he think might happen, and all that. So I'm sure you guys had some good combos yesterday.
It's been a long time since the Bears have thrived in this situation because they don't usually get to this situation, but they have a chance to get their first playoff win in 15 years. Chris, when you look at this matchup, Bears-Packers, I'm having trouble finding a way where the Bears, based on the previous two matchups, would win this game. Can you tell me if you think the Bears are going to win this game?
I do think they can win this football game. I mean, I think this is a coin flip type of football game.
Okay.
I think that's the first thing I would say. Right? I wouldn't want to bet money. I'm not doing that on this game because it could go either way. I think it's a field goal game either way. But at the same time, yeah, there are ways they can win this football game. But I understand like what you're saying. There's no doubt in the first two matchups, the Packers played better football than the Bears. Right? The Bears miraculously pulled that Week 16 matchup out with two late fourth quarter drives, and of course the overtime drive was really the full extent of their offensive performance that day. Everything else was a struggle. Right? Jeff Hafley has had his way a little bit with Ben Johnson, which is very rare. Right? And I know you guys are looking for your first playoff win, and they're coming because I don't think the Bears are going anywhere for a long, long time with this guy at head coach and this guy at quarterback. I'll say that. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing I look at here, and I think in the second matchup, I do think that Malik Willis being thrown into the fold really made things hard on Chicago because he brings a different element that I'm sure they weren't really prepared for in that game. Malik Willis has a chance to be a superstar, and his ability to run and scramble in that second game, I think, caught the Bears off guard. Now it's going to be more the traditional drop back pass, Jordan Love in the pocket, right? So the first thing I look at is like the clip you just played there. For the Packers are 0 for their last 4. The Packers have not been the same since Micah Parsons got injured. I mean, Micah Parsons is a big deal. He's so big that when he got hurt, we all went, I don't know if the Packers can go to the Super Bowl anymore. That's how awesome he is. And then you couple that with Jordan Love not having played in 3 weeks and really only practicing limited times. Yeah, it's hard for me to get behind that and go, wait, the team that's 0-4 and a quarterback that hasn't played, he's just going to hit the ground running on Saturday night and throw for 300 yards and beat the Bears. So that's why I go with the Bears. But the Bears, there's no doubt, one thing in particular shows to me that has to be better if they want to win this game is the drop back pass game. That's it, plain and simple. Right? The first game, they ran the ball, they ran bootlegs, they did a little of that. They left yards and plays there to be had in the drop-back pass game. The second time around, the drop-back pass game didn't deliver until late in the game, and the Packers got a little conservative, trying to protect their lead. This is a game where, yes, I do believe Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams are going to have to win through the pass game. You're not going to be able to just run the ball at will on Green Bay, and that's kind of how I look at it. I picked them to win 23-20, but like I said, I think it's going to be a nail biter.
Chris, I'm glad you brought that up because especially here in Chicago, run the ball, right? Like that's the mantra, that's the solution, that's the ethos. And we all noticed that there was more of a deliberate pocket-based game for the Bears, not only in that second game against the Packers, but even in contrast in the first game to what we had seen prior to the rest of the season. You're hitting on something that I think Ben Johnson has communicated via his game plan. What makes you think that the drop back pass game has to be so quintessential where you think that the run game is going to be so stifled? Like, what's the delta there in it working and it not working?
Right. I think the big thing is that I first off, let's take it from the Packers' perspective. They're going to look at it and think some of the same things you just said, some of the things I've said. They're going to go, man, if they get the run game going, everything starts going in Chicago. So I think that's going to be their biggest thing. Like, let's stop the run game, because then that slows down some of the bootlegs and the play action pass game. And now, if there's anything that's going to happen, I got to see Caleb Williams can beat us in the drop back pass game. And we know he can do that, but it's not been a consistent ride there in that department, right? I mean, if he plays like he did in the 49er football game, I go, don't you worry then, Chicago. The Bears will win. But if it's like some other games this year where we've seen and gone, wait, why didn't he throw that? Or, damn, you're too good and talented to miss that throw right there. And it's been a little in between. And again, this is part of the rewiring of the new robot of Caleb Williams. He's never been a part of anything like this. Ben Johnson, offensive genius, been throwing more things on his plate than he's ever had to deal with in the history of his life in football. And this is a guy, too, throughout his whole career, high school, college, whatever, has been so talented that he could just go out there and make it happen. He doesn't have to follow an offense in every rule. It's special that way. It's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes that way. But to go deep in the playoffs and be a consistent powerhouse in the NFL, you got to play in the pocket. You got to make those throws and what I always call be surgical. And that's been few and far between and a little iffy at times with the Bears and Caleb Williams in this growing process. I think he can do it, but with Ben yelling at them this weekend and all that, yeah, I expect them to deliver in the moment. I do.
We're talking to NBC Sports NFL analyst Chris Sims. And Chris, as a former quarterback yourself, how much have you seen the Bears learning, and especially Caleb Williams learning this new offense and experimenting and trying to build on that while still trying to win games during the season? Because I feel like that's what we're seeing as well in more of this pocket-based idea.
Yeah, well, they have like what I would. This is like they're still on the training wheels part of the offense here for Ben Johnson. And I'm a psycho. I watch film all the time. I mean, I've been singing Ben Johnson's praise for 3 years. He's a genius. He's a genius. But to think in year one that he can come in and throw the whole playbook of what he just had with Detroit and Jared Goff and a veteran quarterback and veteran team and just go, hey, everything we were doing last year, here, Caleb Williams, you can do it. No, you would mess up your quarterback that way. So they're taking it step by step. And they're continuing to grow his game. And I think as we're watching here, we're watching Caleb Williams take 5 steps on a drop, hitch and throw the ball in rhythm instead of what we might have saw last year or at some points this year. He takes 5 steps and he just sits there flat-footed. And then you go, what's he going to do? It looks like he's just ready to play backyard football. I don't think he's really trying to read the play out or do what Ben totally told him to do. So that's a work in progress. We've seen all that going in the right direction, but it's not perfect yet. I do think it will be perfect. Caleb Williams has superstar talent, superstar. He could be one of the greats, one of the greatest quarterbacks in this game for sure. But yeah, this is a game here where they got to think, I think they're going to have to get away from that mold of just running the ball, bootleg passes, and they're going to have to rely on him in that drop back pass game.
Chris, I'm on the record saying they're only going to go as far as Caleb Williams takes them because the defense is the worst defense that's still playing football in the National Football League. They're by far the worst defense in this playoffs. I understand what you're saying about Jordan Love. Is he going to just hit the ground running? But he doesn't turn the ball over. And also, the Bears haven't been able to get to him. Why will he not be afforded statue status in the pocket? Do you see something I'm not seeing as far as them being able to affect him on defense?
No, well, I mean, listen, that's going to be the balance they got, and this is where the Bears are playing with house money. The year's been a success. Watch out for the Bears in years to come. This offseason, when you guys got some money and can spend another pretty penny on maybe another pass rusher and another cover corner and all that, you guys will be dangerous with Dennis Allen. But yes, you're not a great defense. There's no doubt about that, and you're going to have to pick your point. My big thing with them is, yeah, you want to take some tactical chances, I think, blitzing Jordan Love, but don't make it a habit. Because the one thing to me with the Green Bay Packers, they love when you blitz and play man-to-man. And it go back to game number 1 when he had a few deep touchdown passes, or even if you remember game number 1 in Green Bay, he threw the slant pass to Christian Watson, who ran down the field for a touchdown. Those are all against aggressive Bears defenses, where I go, that's what Jordan Love wants. If you look at the Packers, they want to run the ball, throw some screens, and throw bombs down the field. That's how they operate. When they've struggled, teams have taken away those big plays. And then the one thing I'll say about Jordan Love, where I think he can get better in his game, is he's not the most surgical intermediate passer in all of football. Those plays between 5 and 10 yards, those type of throws, they're not usually real consistent in that department and dicing up defenses that way. So that's where I go, the Bears have to have a blend there. But to your point, that's why anybody that's listening to my stuff, I love the Bears. I love Ben Johnson. I love Caleb Williams. Everybody knows that. I haven't been a total believer in the Bears or the 49ers to make a deep playoff run because of what you said. The defenses are just below average, and it's hard to go through the playoffs with a below average defense and think you're going to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's a concerning factor for us as well. And Chris, since you study the tape so much, the 2 games, we joked about how similar not only the 2 games were against these 2 teams, but how similar the discussions are for both fan bases as to the criticisms of certain players or the criticisms of certain aspects of the team. What do you think could be different that we haven't seen out of these 2, or do you think it's going to be more of the same on Saturday?
No, I think it's going to be, very, very close to kind of similar to what we've seen. But I guess if I'm sitting here looking at my crystal ball, I think we're going to see a different drop back pass game. I think this is a game finally where Ben Johnson's like, listen, hey, we've had 18 weeks here. It's Green Bay. They got some talent on their football team. I'm going to open the vault a little bit in the drop back passing game. Caleb, we're going to run a few plays that maybe I haven't asked you to run this year. We might have a few checks at the line of scrimmage where I go, I haven't asked you to do all this mental gymnastics at the line of scrimmage, but this week it's win or go home. So we got to do it, or we're going and planning a vacation next week. And that's where I kind of look at it being different. And then the other things that I talk about with Green Bay, it's just, where's their mental state as a football team right now? I mean, not many teams have had real successful playoff runs going, we lost 4 in a row and our quarterback hasn't played in 3 weeks. That's usually not a recipe for success, and that's where I got to kind of see it to believe it, to think Green Bay can win the game that way.
Chris Sims, the NBC Sports NFL analyst. He's the co-host of PFT Live alongside Mike Florio, and also the host of the Chris Sims Unbuttoned podcast, joining us here on Rahimi, Harris, and Grote. Mark Grote, by the way, joins us at 12:25 from Haugh with the latest there. Okay, Chris. So what do you see as the ceiling for this Bears team? You mentioned, don't have a good defense, you're not going far, but what do you see the ceiling? Because, they win this game, there's a chance they can, play the Eagles next week, but they've got Soldier Field in their back pocket.
Yeah, that's what's amazing too. Again, it's a matchup league. Now, I certainly think the Eagles are a more talented team than the Bears. The Eagles are one of the most talented teams I've ever seen. But as I've discussed a million times, and I always say, the Eagles' offense is horrible. The quarterback play is horrible. So that's why you guys match up. We just talked about your defense not being all that well. Well, the Eagles run like 5 plays on offense, and they have a quarterback that just won't throw to the open guy. He won't do it. And in fact, sometimes he doesn't even look at him. He just looks at the rush and tries to play backyard football. And so they can't run the ball like they did last year. So now everybody's seeing that there's problems there. So that's where you give the Bears a fighting chance there. But you also worry about, Eagles football team that is super talented. That defense is damn good. Now they got to see a few of Ben Johnson's tricks in person once. They're going to make some adjustments. And, there's a part of me, too, with the Eagles have gone, they could be bored with the regular season. They played in so many big football games and know how good they are that they might be able to one of those teams that rarely can, ramp it up once it starts to get real here. But that's a matchup that favors the Chicago Bears. But at the same time, if you had to play, let's say, the Los Angeles Rams or somebody like that, I'd go, I don't know if I like that a whole lot. Matthew Stafford and that offense versus that defense, that the pressure will be on Caleb Johnson and Ben Johnson to win a shootout. And the Rams defense is pretty good. So it depends on the matchup and where it goes here. But in the NFC, I do think that the Seahawks, Rams, and the Eagles are the 3 best teams in the NFC playoff conversation.
Oh, that's big, especially when the Eagles are playing the 49ers for their playoff matchup. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. Tell Mike Florio we said hello.
Thanks, Chris.
I will. All right, guys, be good. Have fun this weekend.